So Jace and Rowan, we're about ready to start our next project, so I can't wait to talk with you a little bit about um, what this project is going to be like. We're going to be working with the term perspective. That's a special vocabulary word in art to help you understand space and creating things that look like they are at a distance. So you can see the project, what sample one of it is. It is an up-close perspective of a snowman. And off in the distance, this is the perspective. It's like we're looking right at the face of our snowman. And in the background, we can see our horizon line and the trees. And they're a lot smaller, so that makes this snowman feel like he's up close. That's a way of drawing with perspective. So for today's project, which will be a 2-time lesson, you will need the blue sheet of paper that was sent home. You will need the 3 colors of paint, orange, white, and black. You will need a jar of water. Mine is dirty from painting just a while ago, so you can get clear water. You're going to need 1 or 2 paint brushes, and I would recommend a paper towel for setting your wet brushes on. And you will also need, later on, we're going to be doing the painting part today. Later on, we are going to use oil pastels. That's why I haven't talked about those. We'll use the oil pastels later on for the background. Before we get started on our snowman drawings, we need to talk about perspective. Perspective in art is a way of drawing that creates what we call depth. And that means that it makes certain objects look close and others look farther away. In the picture that we are looking at, we see a railroad track that looks up close and close to us in the front, and then as we see it going farther and farther back, it gets smaller and smaller and feels as if it's farther away. You can see that with the fence and the telephone lines. Now with this snowman picture, we have our snowman up front and he's really big, but as things get farther away in the background, they appear smaller. This is what we call linear perspective. I'm going to show you just a couple other student drawings. This is one of a kid who has his foot up on the desk and his shoe is really big and is way bigger than his head, but we know that means that his shoe is closer to us, and we're seeing him farther back in the background. You can see this with the hands and the man as well, where the hands were really close to them and his body is farther away. Now, linear perspective is one way of drawing, but there also are other variations of perspective. Aerial perspective or bird's eye view perspective is when we're looking at something from above. So you can see this cityscape that looks like we're seeing it like a bird. Here's a line drawing of a kid, a kid's room. So again, we're looking at the top of the desk and the bed and the shelves, and we're seeing it from a bird's eye view. And this next painting, same thing, not quite so directly above, but we're seeing the neighborhood as if we were flying above. I'm going to show you one more. This one's really fun. It's a radial image where we're looking up at the sky from the middle of what appears to be a city block, and we're seeing all of these buildings towering above us. That is another way of creating perspective. We are going to be drawing snowmen. Now our snowmen, we're going to decide, are they going to have their face really close to us, or are we going to be having like a little squirrel or mouse view, like in this picture where we can see the 3 different parts of the snowman, like we're at the foot of the snowman looking up, seeing the bottom of his nose and his scarf and his hat all from below. This is another student work where you can see a bunch of different positions where the snowman, we're looking up at it, we're looking down at it in that bottom one. We're looking at it from the side. So that's how we're going to play with perspective today. We're going to make what we want to be up front to be big, as if we're really close to it. Sheet of paper in front of you, just like we saw in photos. We want some of our objects to look like they're up close, and then we want, which would be our snowman, and then we want some of our objects to look like they are in the distance, in the horizon line. So today, we are going to be drawing and painting the snowman, and we're going to let that dry for the rest of the time, and then we'll come back and put on a fun hat. Try and decide how much of our snowman we want showing. In the example that Mr. Warner gave us, we have just the snowman's head that's really up close and a nice big orange carrot nose. And in the background, we can see the horizon line where we have the trees, which are smaller than our snowman's head. Now we know that in real life, the snowman would be smaller than the trees, but when we're drawing in perspective, we know that things that are farther away are smaller, and that's how we make it look like the snowman is up close in the front. So I did a couple of drawings to figure out what kind of perspective I want to do. In this snowman, this is a bird's eye perspective where we're looking down at the snowman. So the face is really big, and then we can see as the body gets farther away, if we're looking at it from the top, we can see parts of the body, but those are smaller. These two snowmen are very similar to what Mr. Warner did in our picture behind here. This one's just up close with the face and a horizon line, and this one we show part of that second body. I think this is the one that I'm going to do, where I'm going to show a section of each snowball. I'll have my horizon line way down at the bottom because this is much more like a squirrel or a mouse looking up at the snowman. I can see underneath its nose, its carrot. So that's the one that I'm going to do. So I recommend that you do something like this or something like the ones that Mr. Warner did. So we're going to work on that together. You want to have your blue sheet of paper and a pencil. Because I'm going to do the one with 3 snowballs showing like this, I'm going to go almost all the way up to the top of my paper. So I'm going to put a dot here, and then I'm going to put another dot to show me how long his head will be, and then I'm going to put another dot down here so I can see how wide his body is going to be. And I'm going to go down very much in the corner, and I'm going to put another dot here. So it's not halfway. So you can see here, actually, I did it a little bigger. So I'm going to fit, and I'm going to start with the bottom one. Now, if you're just doing the head, you can have put 1 dot on the one side, 1 dot at the bottom, and you're going to connect it with an arch or a half or quarter circle. So I want my first one is going to be the bottom part of the bubble. So I'm just going to put another dot here so I can kind of follow it so I'll know I'm getting it about the size I want. That's going to be the bottom snowball part. I'm going to take this same dot and I'm going to curve it up to that second one. So it's like I'm a little squirrel and I'm looking up and I can see the bottom part of my snowman, and I can see this middle part. And I'm going to put another little dot here about halfway through, and then this is going to come out, and this is going to be my snowman's head. Okay, so you can see that we're looking up. At the very bottom, like I have here, I'm going to put a horizon line, and these are the parts that we are going to be working on. We're going to be painting this white. We'll do this gray, your horizon line, because back here I'm going to have trees, but we won't do that till next time. Now I'm going to do a little point on my horizon, and I'm going to bring a line. This is going to be like a path or a road. From that point, I'm going to bring 2 lines. So I'm going to spread them out so they're going to get wider as they hit the side. That's going to be our path. That looks like it's going farther and farther back because the road appears to get smaller. See, so I'm going to have small trees, which are going to be very small compared to my snowman. And then I might make a tree that seems to be a little bit closer. See how that one's going to get bigger up here, but you don't have to worry about that because we're going to be painting this gray. Okay, so the next thing we want to draw on here is we're going to figure out where we're going to put the nose. Now, mine nose, I'm going to do it with a curve at the bottom because I can see the bottom of it, and it's going to look as if it were kind of coming up. I'm going to be doing that orange. This is where I would have the eyes. I won't be able to see this whole eye because his nose, carrot nose, is going to get in the way. And I'm going to put a line for his hat. I really like Mr. Warner's stripes. So I'm going to mark where his hat is going to be. We will be putting, I'm going to put a scarf on mine, but we'll do that after we paint it. So if you're doing just a really big face, your curved line isn't going to go down below, it's going to go on the side. And then you'll put your lines like basically like the letter V on its side. For the carrot nose, so you can kind of see, and off in the distance, I'm going to have his arm branch kind of sticking out so we can tell he's got a branch, and I might even put like a bird or something on there later. We'll see. Once you have that done, we're going to do our painting. This is tempera paint. It's different than watercolor because it's thicker, and it's what we call opaque. That means that you can't see through it. Once you paint it on, we won't be able to see the blue paper that is underneath. Now, when you're using tempera, it is a water-based paint. So see how it's kind of going on? You can see the lines. If it's acting a little bit too thick or some of it is drying out, all you have to do is add a little bit of water to it. Now this water will help it spread more, but it also can clean it off too. And if it's totally dry, it will make it smear because tempera is water-based. So you want to make sure that you don't really get this on your table or on your sleeves or your clothes, but if you do, it will wash out, especially the white, because the white won't stain anything. Sometimes the red and the purple might leave a little bit of a stain behind, but mostly it will all wash out. So you can see I have my head in. Now if you're really nervous about your carrot nose and you covered part of it with your painting, don't worry about it because the orange will cover the white. So I could put white in here, and I might just do that and we'll let it dry. And then when I put orange over it, it'll blend it a little, but it also will keep the blue from showing through at all. So I'm getting my white, and my paint is pretty thick, so you can see the lines from the brush. But I can always add a little bit of water to make it spread a little bit more easily. And because it's kind of thick, that means I can spread more of it along the edge. I've always liked working with tempera because they do clean up really nice, and all you need is water, and it doesn't make your hands really sticky. Oil paint is really kind of sticky, and it's a pain to clean. And even acrylic, which won't come out of your clothes once it dries. So tempera's I think a fun paint to use. So I'm just adding a little bit of water to my brush so that the white will spread. So once you have the white in, we're going to let that dry a little bit. We're going to take our white, and now we're going to take a tiny bit of black. You don't need a lot of black because we are just mixing it in to make a nice gray. And you can kind of see what the black is made out of, because it is making almost a blue color out of my white. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep painting the bottom underneath where I put the horizon line. So you can see I've got the horizon line down here, picking up the paint. And I'm going to do a little bit of the whiter area so we can kind of see the little path I made. When the paint is wet, you can always add a little bit more white or black or any color to make it blend. But we do want to keep the orange away from our gray because we only want that for our nose. So you might want to put paper underneath your painting when you do it, and that will protect the table that you are working on. I'm going to wash my brush. I'm pushing the bristles up against the jar to squeeze out the extra water and paint. I put it on my paper towel and dry. So the last thing we need to do is to use the orange and color in our carrot nose. So I'm starting to paint in our carrot nose. And you can see already that some of my white was still a little bit wet, and so it's mixing in, which gives our carrot some highlights, which kind of looks nice. You can, if you want your carrot darker, you can take your paint and just add a little bit more on, or you can let it dry and then add another coat. So I'm going to move my paint so you can see what it looks like. We have our horizon line that's gray and a little bit of a path. I've got my little tree drawings that I'm going to do in there. We've got our snowman off to the side, and we have our branch for an arm, and I've got the drawing that I have on top for his hat. I think I want you to do one more thing. You can kind of see by how I did the paint that in between where I smoothed it out between what's supposed to be little snowballs, it's a little bit darker and you can kind of see that blue coming through. I want you to just really carefully take a little bit of your black, add it to some of that gray, and I want you to go in and put a line on if you're doing multiple, if you did more than one snowball, okay? If you just did his face, then you don't have to worry. But if you decided to show some of his body, I did a dark line, and now I'm picking up my white and I'm just pulling that dark line down a little bit, if you can see. And it's just creating a little bit of a shadow. And I'm going to take a little bit of that dark, I'm going to pull that up. So I want you to be able to watch. I'm kind of pulling that up from the line. This is down. And I'll do a little bit of white. Mix it in with the gray. Now I also, if that's not blending really well for you, because I'm going to do it here, I'm going to put a little shadow here too. You can always get your brush a little bit wet and then dry it out on the paper towel, and then it's still damp, and that will really smooth and blend your darker gray and the white. So boys, this is like just like the little extra fun part that you can experiment with. I'm going to take a little bit of that gray and I'm putting it underneath my snowman. I'm even going to, this is going to be crazy, I'm going to do a little line that's kind of like a shadow for his nose. So you can see that, but you can see it's not It's not really dark. It's just a tiny, tiny bit. And I guess I'll just do one more little spot. You can smooth out any edges that you like by getting your paintbrush slightly wet. I'm going to let that dry, set clean, all clean, and there you have it. We have our horizon, our path, our snowman. Next week we're going to put our eyes in, our hat, our arm, our scarf, and all the other fun things, and some pretty items in the trees. So I hope you had fun playing around with perspective, making some objects look really close and up front, and some look a little bit farther in the distance. Post your work of the painting that's only this far on Seesaw. I look forward to seeing it.